See, that's why I say I think being a Boer, an Afrikaans person, you're not allowed to be called that unless you live up to that. And that's why I've been vocal about changing what it means to be Afrikaans, evolving what it means, because we as Afrikaans people, we've been not inclusive. We've been all of these things that we equate to being bad. So we have to evolve it. And if we don't evolve it, what we call being Afrikaans, right, and celebrating that, it's going to end terribly. Because I don't celebrate Blood River.
Got beef sausage in there, got some eggs, got caramelized onion. It's basically, we call it it's a Monday burrito to kill the hangover the next day. You can have it hot.
My hangovers aren't exclusive to Monday.
So then you can have this any day.
Mzig's Kitchen, Hustler's Corner. It's not a Monday unless it's a NOTA Monday. Sbuda Buda. Go do your orders there at Mzig's Kitchen. It's available in Sandton and surrounding areas. Go get your meals, and thank you to everyone that's been supporting us. We've been in business now for a solid month. And thanks to you guys who've been successful. Thank you for the support. We're glad you're enjoying the food. We're getting some great reviews. Please, guys, do tip our motorbike delivery guys when they get to deliver your orders. Especially if you've gotten some great service, tip the guys, man, and give us a good rating over there on your Uber Eats app. We're also available on Spaza Eats. We're also available on Mr. D. NOTA Monday. NOTA will be doing a lot of the talking, but I'm very excited because we've got a new generation of voices that are all over the internet that are speaking, for the current generation. And it's beautiful that South Africa is evolving into this country that it's becoming. So it's always nice for us to have a sit down and have these different conversations. Africa is home, and we've got PIETER KRIEL in the house. I was asking him off air, how are we going to introduce you? And he's like, I'm just PIETER. NOTA.
How are you doing? Is it Peter or is it Peter?
It's most definitely PIETER.
Yeah,
right?
Peter. Yeah.
Yes.
I like that. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, DJ Sibo, NOTA.
Thank you,
Appreciate
bro.
it.
Thank you. Thank you for driving all the way. Appreciate
Thank you.
it. Oh, by the way, before NOTA starts, we'd like to gift you your street cred.
My street cred.
Anybody sees you wearing this t-shirt, they won't ask you where did you get it.
Okay.
So now you are street certified. It's a Mzig's Kitchen t-shirt. It's got this guy here wearing orange overalls and a black mask. His name is Mzegazeg.
Here we go.
So this gift
I
is
appreciate it. Thank you. I'm going to represent it well. Thank you.
yours. You're more than welcome, bro.
So, I like using AI to do a background checks on people when they're in front of me. So I can check if the AI has got it right. So this is what
Grok or ChatGPT.
I prefer Grok. It's just closer to X, and you can just share it. PIETER KRIEL, the South African writer and social critic, is a philosopher and commentator active since 2020. Would you think that's accurate?
I'd say I've been writing articles and publishments since 2020.
Focusing on truth-seeking through writing, he addresses South African social and political issues such as racial dynamics, national crises, and emancipation for all South Africans. He's active on the medium X at PIETERKRIEL.org or at PIETERKRIELORG, where he's posted about topics like Afrikaners claiming refugee status, arguing there's no genocide, but a shared crisis. He authored Quality of Work Life Redefined, the role of morals ethics and justice. Oh,
No, that's not me.
that's not you.
No, I've seen that. That's probably just someone else.
So Grok is wrong.
You see, there you go. This is why we have to check these live. We have to correct Grok. You know what I mean? He's polarizing, praised by some as a truthful voice, criticized by others for controversial views on race and Afrikaner identity, including a letter denying a white genocide in South Africa. If you need specific posts or deeper analysis, let me know. Wow. Okay. So Grok is how accurate about you?
Grok is pretty accurate. I don't really use Grok. I normally use ChatGPT, but I think I should start using Grok because it knows more about me than I do. So, definitely.
So, on the 2nd of March, 1995, I was almost 5 years old. We're celebrating, I think, my mother's 48th birthday or 38th birthday. Yeah, no, 38th birthday. If I was 5, she had me at 33. And you were being born. Tell us about your early years. You know, you were born right before South Africa lifted the 1995 World Cup, which for me was, you know, a formative unifying moment for this country. And you missed it.
Yes.
I don't know how many years.
Well, I was born in 2004. Grew up
4.
Yeah, 4.
Oh, 4.
Yes.
Wow. Oh,
That's
my
10
goodness.
years later, bro.
Where did I get the 1995
I was born in
from?
2004.
It must have been Grok. Okay, yes.
Yes.
So you were born in
2004. That makes me 21.
You're 21, bro.
I'm 21.
Hold on, 2004
With
is
the mind
21.
that you have, you're
Hold on.
21.
I'm 21.
2004 is 21.
Bro.
I'm a 2021. My feelings are done.
Bro, you're 21.
Well, some people use it against me because they say I'm too young to know anything. So I don't know. I just speak what I think is just fair and equitable to all people, and some people criticize me for that. So some call me an activist, some call me a traitor, right? So, absolutely.
So tell us about your upbringing. Heidelberg, right?
Yes, I grew up in Heidelberg, which most people would probably know is a conservative town with a lot of churches, Afrikaans churches. So
A lot of them were white.
yes, right.
Like painted white. I mean, I don't mean... with the
No,
people.
but they're in town. They're physically white,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well, right? But I grew up in this religious environment in conservative town, and from a young age, I've always just felt that that is really not what we anticipated or wanted to happen in the transition in 1994. We didn't want Afrikaners to do their own thing in South Africa. We didn't want Zulu people to do their own thing in South Africa. We wanted a nation, right? And I feel like ever since 1994, and I'd say this on air, I think the Rainbow Nation is a lie. We've been more divided than ever, especially now with what's happening with the refugees that just landed, if they call themselves that just landed in Texas. It's more dividing than it is bringing unity to the people. And I say that because there's quite a lot of Afrikaners that feel that they're being persecuted, but most of them don't seek asylum in a country that's granting them refugee status when they're not actually. According to statistics and modern scientific inquiry, they're not refugees.
Or even the United Nations,
Yes.
which pronounced on the matter last year.
Absolutely.
So, okay. I'm sorry I got your bio wrong. And, well, I'm not sorry that you share a similar name with a lot of other PIETER KRIEL. I think the one I was referring to was born in 1995, is a javelin thrower.
Oh yeah, I was a sprinter. I was a 100-meter and 200-meter sprinter.
And what is your PB?
10-4.
10. Oh wow!
I was an SA athlete.
Sub 11.
Yeah, I won essays when I was 14, 15.
You could be a Springbok at sub 11.
That was before I started smoking. I've been clean for 1 month now.
Well done,
well
guys.
done.
Clean for 1 month.
Absolutely.
So this is cigarettes.
Cigarettes.
Oh yes,
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Thank
the
you.
biggest one. to
Yeah,
quit.
that's the biggest one.
I also quit recently cigarettes.
Yeah.
Like, in 2020. So
Well, I
that
think
stuff-
when you quit that, you could literally quit anything, right?
exactly.
Absolutely.
So yeah, you were saying your athletic journey.
Well, really, it picked up when I was just, in end of primary, going into high school. And once I found out about the humanities and philosophy, I really stopped caring about practicing sprints, and I started caring about being a voice that hopefully people would want to listen to one day. And I think that changed it. My dad always wanted me to go into that career, and I just chose, I think, unconsciously, not to be an athlete, right, but to be something else. I've always wanted to be different, and I think that is why my town might call me the black sheep, right? Because I've publicly identified as the Heidelberg's most famous secular or atheist, and they don't like that, obviously.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're 21.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's forgivable. It's forgivable. You know, things like religion and faith, having been a young man myself, I'm 35 now, so I don't qualify as a young man anymore.
You look very young.
Thank you. You know, yeah, it's because I trimmed my beard a bit. You know, you go through these things, so don't take it to heart, because I mean, who knows? What if you change your mind about your beliefs 10 years from now?
Well, see, the thing is, I've always been open to there being some order in the universe, right? I'm not denying the existence of a God. What I am denying is the sheer harm that organized religion has brought Africa, not just Africa, the whole world, for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And that is really what I have a problem with. So that's why I call myself a secularist and a humanist. I believe everyone should practice their own religion. That's their right. But it shouldn't be government dominated, right? We shouldn't have a state religion. We should have a secular state. But of course, I go to church with my family, not because I necessarily believe it, but because I love them. And I engage in cultural things, not because I believe it, but to make my parents feel home, right?
Yeah, I mean, okay, well, I guess your parents is one thing, but I mean, broader society, I mean, we're one of the most Christian nations in the world. You know, we've got an over 90% religious population. So it does hurt you in public opinion if you're against people practicing religion, despite what your own personal beliefs may be, and with your politics as well. You know, you don't want to make yourself an enemy on all the various fronts. So I think it's a good thing to express that and to also disclaim that in the way that you're doing, because someone who's ordinarily watching you and thinking, hey, this is just, you know, a Satanist emo kid, you know. And, you know, young white kids do have that proclivity. So you don't want to be dismissed like that as some sort of, you know, a religious heretic. It weakens a lot of your arguments when people taint your point of view with their beliefs about, you know, your faith and the disparity between theirs as well. So you're doing a whole lot of work about breaking fallacies that people have long held. You know, I want to speak about when in your childhood the bubble burst and you came out of the fallacy of the white enclave that, you know, is South African, you know, whiteness.
I probably noticed I lived in South Africa, right? One of the most racist nations on earth. When I was in primary school and when the bell rings, white kids would go that side and black kids would go that side.
Wow, in primary.
Right?
Yeah.
And you notice that. And you wonder, why does this happen, right? And then one day you start playing with the African kids, with the black kids, and you notice, well, why haven't I been playing with them? Soccer is so much more fun than playing albusters, right? You know, and you get to experience why these people are on these side of the table and these people are on these side of the table. And once I always say, when you put yourself in the shoes of someone that is oppressed, you can feel that empathetic flame within, and you can
Or you should.
You should, right?
Okay, yes.
You should have that empathetic flame, and you should resonate.
Yeah.
And throughout high school, I was a activist for African kids wearing whatever hairstyle they wanted,
Oh,
and I was
lovely.
publicly humiliated in high school for doing so.
What did that entail? How did they do?
So we had policies against wearing afro to a certain length and all of that. And I remember the black kids having a protest in school one day. And I joined in, and I felt that it was absolute, because I had longer hair, and I always felt that it's just not right? You can't tell someone what they should do based on what they want to do. So I joined in, and I got a lot of hate for it. Not necessarily from the teachers, but from the other white kids, right? Why would you do that? We don't have afro. You don't have to advocate for that. And I was just like,
I've got an afro right now.
yes.
I'm sorry, you can't touch it because I just put castor oil on it recently. No. That's just a disclaimer.
So continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that is where it really picked up. And then I started making TikToks and videos on my previous TikTok. And
Also, you've got 2 TikToks.
I had one,
Okay.
and I lost the access to it. So
okay.
it still has some videos. And I only started last year. I think it was March.
I'll connect you to my friend Loiso about that other TikTok. So maybe you can download all the data so you can recover that account for you. And then,
cool,
so you picked up, and then what happened?
Where were we?
You were telling us about how your second TikTok picked up and
so
your
I
activism.
started about a year ago. And my goal was not to be provocative, but my goal was to dissect into the mind of the fundamentalists that believe these things. I wanted to speak directly to them. That's why when you go to my Twitter comments, most of them are right-wing, white, racist fanatics, right?
Okay.
I want to engage with them because I feel that my goal should be to go and educate these white communities that still have this I'd call it locked-in mindset. And sadly, grown men don't want to change their ideologies. That's why it's important we go to schools, primary schools and high schools, and talk to, especially white kids, about these problems so that they can grow up knowing about it and not find it out when they're 20 or 21, or something like that.
So you say a primary school. That's the first moment. Let's talk about earlier years. Talk about 2007. You were 3 years old in 2007. Do you have any memories of when you were that young and the life that you
I
led?
have memories of playing outside, right? And engaging with what is happening around me. And from a young age, you do notice that certain people are being treated differently because of what they've achieved in life. A doctor who's white has a lot more respect than your house domestic worker does. Because in the eyes of society, he's achieved much more than a domestic worker, even though a domestic worker might have more knowledge, right? And so growing up, let's say at the age of 3 or 4, I saw this dynamic. We had a domestic worker, and I engaged with her. I sat under the trampoline and we ate pap together. She taught me some Sotho words.
Did she teach you how to eat pap and not
She
burn
taught
your
me.
fingers?
She taught
Yeah,
me
my
how
grandmother
to do
taught
it
me that.
perfectly.
Okay, yeah,
Absolutely.
okay, so you know that. Okay, good.
And
No, that's a very important skill to have, to know how to eat pap.
and I think that was a big transition for me, you know.
Really?
Yes.
But you're an Afrikaner, you guys eat pap, right?
Yes, no, but what I mean a big transition is, to a large extent, let's be honest, a lot of people who had domestic workers and nannies, black women raised white kids to a large extent.
Yeah, I know that.
And I think that is a reason why we as a generation, I had nannies, we had domestic workers.
Yeah, I also had nannies, but
And-
a decade and a half before you were born. Yeah.
And I think growing up with nannies really, I heard her opinion about things, right? We always had a domestic, she voted ANC all her life. I remember fighting with her as a young kid. Why would you fight ANC? Why don't you vote DA? DA is the way to go, right?
How old were you? Were you 4?
I was probably 6, 7,
Okay.
right? When you just got
So
that.
you were fighting about why is she voting?
My parents vote DA. Can't you see that the neighborhoods in DA areas are better? You were indoctrinated to believe that. And the more time you spend with people outside of your own culture, you break that dynamic. You learn the township is not some place you'll be slaughtered, cut up, and, moved to another country. That's not what is happening.
So how old were you the first time you were taken to the township?
I was in high school. The first time I went alone, I was in high school.
No, but I'm saying you were taken.
Probably in primary.
In primary,
Yes.
were you taken by your
Athletics.
gymnastics?
We had athletics
so
in
you had
Soweto
sports.
and quite a few townships.
So, okay, you guys had a domestic, right? But because you're from Heidelberg, right? And also hearing about your history and the type of community that you lived in, it seems like, you could see racism, right? I would call Heidelberg maybe like a working class or poor white town. You know what I mean? Wouldn't you like describe it as the same? Is that not like the richest white people?
No, I don't
live there?
think Heidelberg has the richest population, but they have a lot of rich people. I think most white people in Heidelberg is probably middle income earners. Probably some might be a little bit lower than that. But that doesn't deny the fact that Heidelberg, in my opinion, is still a very racist town.
Yeah, that's why I find it strange because, I mean, I grew up with a nanny or whatever, but this is in the 90s. So I've had nannies. I was born in 1990. I had a nanny when we were living in Soweto, and a new nanny when we moved to here in Johannesburg North. So hearing about the attitudes of the people that you grew up around, it's, for me, it's like a little bit weird because in the neighborhood that I grew up in, we mixed a lot earlier, probably, and I guess the black people that came here were more affluent, and the white people also are much more affluent. And hearing that the sentiments of racism are more deeply held amongst the less affluent whites is disturbing for me because, the proximity to the living conditions of blacks is much closer. The same way you were able to be taught how to eat pap, be fed out of a black woman's hand as a baby, one would assume that in your community, if you guys were so close together and not so far apart from a wealth perspective, that you'd at least find some sort of proximity, and you'd be able to, build a community where you see each other as equals. But it takes me back to an experience I had when I was outside of the country in New York, and I was observing hobos, and something came over me where, the hobos would be friendly to me because usually, people who live on the streets in South Africa, it could be just anybody, so usually you're open and you speak to them. But I felt very scared when I was in a foreign country and, the homeless people started speaking to me. I thought, do they maybe see that I'm one step away from being homeless like them? And did that now create an aversion within me to them? Do you think maybe that might be the reason why the poorer whites seem to hold on to their racism so strongly because they feel like, they're closer to being black?
I do think to a large extent, education plays the most vital role. I don't think proximity fixes anything. Proximity, I made a video about this. Proximity might give you integration, a white man marrying a black woman. But that doesn't deny the fact that even though you might marry a black woman, that doesn't mean you can't be racist just because you've married a black woman. I think, and I've written about this extensively, I think we as white people, especially in South Africa and in the United States as well, where we've been conditioned with internal racism, we've inherited something that tells us that we are superior and that we deserve to be at the top. And I think that needs to be deconstructed through education and not proximity. Otherwise, you'll never be equal.
Okay. So do you understand the danger of what you just said? Like the implications of it?
What implications?
Well, okay, for me, from my perspective, right, from what I've encountered, especially from white children in general, as growing up, I've always thought white children are deliberately made stupid. because of the limited history that they learn and the lack of interrogation of that history as well, and the facts. And the fact that, white kids grow up with these blinders and blinkers, for someone growing up like me, observing other white kids, there's no way I'll ever think any white person can ever be as intelligent or as well-read or as knowledgeable as me, or any black person for that matter, And then when it comes to just life experience, because white children are sheltered in communities where, they don't struggle as much as black kids, they also don't have that resilience that black kids. So I'll never assume that a white child can withstand the amount of pain I can withstand. Like if we're to go into a certain battle, if like you and I were to go into a hunger strike, I would estimate that I'd probably survive longer than you could without food. You know what I mean? So just that on its own, if you were intentional about it and you knew what it would do, you wouldn't do that to your children. You wouldn't like deliberately weaken them. You know what I mean? You allow your kids to play outside. You allow them to eat their snot, and it immunizes them from the bugs that are around. So basically, white kids are kept in bubble wrap, and then they're expected to go out into this world. And now when they go out into this world with all these vulnerabilities, it makes them stupid enough to be racist. You know what I mean? Because for me, you have to be stupid to be racist. Like,
Uneducated.
Because
I don't think it's stupidity though. I think it's what you know. It's
but you can be made stupid by being taught less than others.
But you don't even know.
I think I do agree to a large extent. Our older generations have been so programmed into believing it, they actually believe it, right? But that's why I think with our younger generation, we have the access to any answer we want with the tap of our fingers on our phone. Being racist is a choice, right? And that's why we have therapy and mental institutions to help you overcome those barriers, right? But if you choose to be racist in 2024 or in 2025, that's your choice, because you can.
But isn't it a danger? What I'm saying is that isn't that a dangerous choice? Like to be racist in a world where people know so much and can argue against your racism, and articulate that, and then if you now become endemic to those people because you hold on to those fallacies, then you make yourself a target. And for me, if you make yourself a target unnecessarily, that is like the definition of being stupid. You know what I mean? It's like running in traffic. That's stupid.
Please let him finish his points. No?
Yeah.
Don't cut him short.
I've engaged with quite a few people who call themselves revolutionaries, right? Because they post videos on TikTok saying that we want to bring change and this is wrong and that's wrong. That doesn't make you a revolutionary. If you believe in policies, that makes you a revolutionary in thought, but it makes you a pseudo-revolutionary because you've not engaged in the revolution to make it happen. And that is why I'm not afraid to receive any amount of hate for my opinion. If someone walks up to me and punches me in the face in public, I can't wait to meet them. So I really don't have any fear, and I do around 100 push-ups a day, sit-ups as well. So they can take me on if they'd like to. I'm not saying I'd win, but I'm not afraid to stand up for myself and for what I believe is right. So I hope that answers your question.
It does somewhat answer my question. So now, what is your message for the parents that are allowing their kids to come out into this world in a little bubble that will endanger them in the future with their ignorance?
I think we have to tell our kids from a young age what the realities are that they live in, right? We have townships, right?
Okay, does that mean the birds and the bees as well?
Of course, yes.
Okay.
We need to be honest about, let's use townships as an example. We have townships, and I say this very clearly, not because black people have too many babies, but because the apartheid regime moved black people systemically into homelands, infertile land, less functional schooling systems and education and healthcare, and that disproportionately affected people. You have to teach that to your kids. You can't tell your kids or allow them to believe that townships exist because black people have too many babies, because that brings about that stereotype, And if you don't break that stereotype when a child is 5 or 6 or 7, you're not going to break it when he's 22.
Okay, so now tell us about that township experience. You go there on an athletics meet. You're still in primary school. Who won?
Well, at that specific time, I won.
Oh, okay,
but I
good.
think that was before puberty.
Okay.
Like I said, primary school. But once we
But in terms of the school, who won in the school? Which school won?
no, I don't know.
Oh, you can't remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
But as soon as you walk into a stadium in Soweto, right? You don't know what Soweto is because you're a little child, but you hear your parents speaking about, we're going into fucking Soweto now. We have to be careful.
I mean, you got like, hold on, you got Ratanda right there. I mean, so Soweto is scary. It's so
But
far from you.
that's-
You got a township
that-
right next to you.
That's what
in
I mean.
Heidelberg.
You've been so programmed, right? Because white people in Heidelberg would drive into Ratanda to drop off their domestic workers.
Like, I wouldn't go to Ratanda as a Sowetan because it's like backward. So, like,
Yeah, that's just these stereotypes.
Yeah.
A place could be more dangerous, and just because you believe it's less dangerous, that's the reality. You believe it's less dangerous.
so the crowd is there screaming, the kids. Is it drowning out the sounds of your parents' apprehension about going to Soweto for the first time?
There was definitely thoughts and experience and words about that. Being different experience. And to a certain extent, I probably credit that to my parents not growing up as I grew up. They grew up enclaved. Not that gives them any right to still hold on to this. Right? Not that they do.
But it's an explanation, I guess.
yeah.
It's not a justification.
Yeah, and that's why I say it's hard to break at full-grown adults' visions about something, especially when they believe that they might be persecuted or be killed because of safety, right? Because that is why Urania says they want to exist. They want to move away from this crime that the black person brings to them. That's their opinion, and that is false, absolutely. Because it's been well documented that crime happens within the human population and not specific races, right? We saw the murder that happened in Urania. A man murdered his wife and kid and then himself. So you get vetted before entering Urania. You have to be a Christian nationalist and uphold the Christian values. He was vetted, right? What does that say about their mission? A Christian nationalist who was vetted kills his wife, himself, and his child.
Yeah, that's crazy. So now you're at this athletics meet. There's other black children, I assume, are around. There's this competition. What is the reception in the community?
How do you mean?
Like, they see other white kids from another white school. So, like, were they welcoming?
Of course, yes. I think a big difference is I've been to Mozambique, right? And I've been to into the deeper parts of Mozambique, traveling on foot, doing a little bit of backpacking. And you see black people experience a white person perhaps for the first time or the first few times. They want to see you. They've never seen it before. But I don't find the exact same experience within the white communities. For example, going to athletics in Soweto. You see the black kids admiring the white kids. They're here, they're running with us, we're competing, we're having fun. But you see the white kids kind of not wanting to be there because it's not white enough. So that is where the problem comes in. I've always said that you have to go out and you have to experience and you have to talk. Otherwise, you can't break these narratives.
And it starts young. I've seen even in workplaces, like for some reason it happened on its own. Even if there's a work function or there's like a gathering, automatically like a group of white people just go on their own and black people, and this is just one black person there in a group of white people, maybe one or two white people there in a group of black people. And it happens on its own. It's not like they tell each other, come this side. And you can just tell that this is something that was rooted from an early age, from earlier on.
Absolutely.
So a person like you who has got these types of thoughts or these ideologies, did you go to varsity? What did you snap out of the herd mentality?
So
what did you decide to even teach yourself the knowledge that you so far know?
So I've been reading books and things like that from a pretty young age. I was always the guy, you didn't invite to the braai because I'd talk politics or philosophy or something and I'd bore you. So I'd read all of that as I grew up. And after high school, I decided I want to rebel a bit. I don't want to go to university straight away. I want to go and experience the world. So I went to Mozambique and I went to Europe and I went to parts of Asia and I experienced culture. I was backpacking. I experienced cultures.
How old were you?
I was in matric.
Okay, so your parents allowed you to.
Yes.
Okay.
You had a lot of privilege.
I had a lot of privilege, and I've always admitted that I've had privilege that I've had the ability to use, right?
Yeah.
I've never denied that my parents could take me to school in a Fortuner, whereas a black kid has to take a taxi. I've never.
Well, they have the same engine.
Yes, I've never denied. I've never denied my privilege.
Yeah.
But I think acknowledging your privilege is the first step to making change or bringing change. Not necessarily universally, but within your own community. I don't want to be a savior for black people. I don't care for that. I want to educate illiterate and uneducated racist whites.
Aren't you a savior for whites?
No, I don't want to be a savior.
But I mean, okay, for me, the greatest danger to white people is the ignorance, collectively and, individually, for certain individuals that are ignorant and vocal about it. Don't you feel that, awakening those who have been indoctrinated helps them better present themselves in this world and shields them from whatever karmic retribution is coming from those still beholden to racist views?
I engage with these types of questions and racist people and fundamental people because I believe that opening up this dialogue, you don't want to change that person's mind, but you want to make a flame or ignite something within the people watching you. You want to show them that, you know what, I can sit here and I can have a meaningful discussion with this person, even though he might not want to do the same with me. He might be here to win the argument and to, push off his points. My goal is to open up dialogue and have people come together and talk about it. Because to a large extent, we don't evolve as a nation because we don't get together and debate and talk about it and fight about it. Because let's be honest, we've been ignoring it. And if we ignore it, the wound gets bigger and bigger. So we have to engage in it.
Sorry, we disturbed you. You're still telling us you were backpacking, telling us about the knowledge that you got at an early age.
Yeah, so, after high school, I went backpacking. I engaged with different cultures and communities and things like that. And it gave me some perspective. I learned that not everyone dresses the same. Not everyone eats the same. We might have different races or different levels of melanin or whatever it's called. But that is just humanity expressing itself in different shades. And that makes it more powerful because what a boring life it would be if we were all just one expression of the same thing. It makes it so much more powerful that we are different and that we get to talk about it. We shouldn't exclude it. We should talk about it.
It's like Ethiopian women. They're all like one expression of this. They're beautiful, yes, but it's the same kind of beauty. You know what I mean? Like in South Africa, you get all kinds of beauty, all types, you get the blonde, the blue-eyed, the brunette, the brown-eyed, the green-eyed. Everything is mixed up in a hodgepodge and in a melting pot. I still want to take it back to your Soweto experience, the second one, where you went on your own now.
Yeah, no, I didn't go to Soweto on my own. I did go into different townships on my own.
Oh, different townships.
Including Ratanda, where we did some work. I don't know if you guys saw it, but we had a case at a restaurant in Heidelberg where 4 young black women were sexually violated by staff. And
more senior staff.
By
were they
restaurant
patrons?
Owners. Right?
Or were they patrons or were they working there?
Working there.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
it happened to such an extent where the oldest lady working there, the owner could just touch her bottom and she'd be so used to it. She didn't even say anything, right? So I went into Ratanda and I questioned these ladies because they obviously couldn't speak on camera. So we had to show their faces in another direction. But going in, That's just one example. But when I was younger, just exiting high school, I had a friend. His name was called Taniku Malumela, and I have to say he was a pillar. Taniku.
Okay.
Right? Shangana, right?
Yeah.
He always said he was Shangan, but his dad was Zulu. So
no, he's probably Shangan.
Yes.
Yeah, Shangans are Zulus. They're Tsonga speakers, but their tribe was assimilated or conquered, let's say, into the Zulus, and the women refused to teach their children this new language. So then the Zulu warrior Soshangane, who established that kingdom, then assimilated to Tsonga, and his children then all spoke Tsonga, all three of them, and then the empire disintegrated. So don't worry, Shangan is correct.
No, but yeah, he was a pillar because we lived together in Sandton. I had a flat in Rivonia in Sandton in grade 12, right? So I was selling articles. I was just writing and selling articles online. And
This is before AI.
that was before AI.
Ah, damn.
Sadly. But yeah, we were in Sandton and we got to live together. And we became best friends.
Tinyiko Maluleke.
Taniku Malimela.
Malumela.
Oh, Malumela.
And
okay.
we deconstructed because we had those discussions and debates and everything, right?
Yeah.
At that point, I didn't even think about hinting anything towards the EFF or their policies, right?
Okay.
Because sometimes I do now support some EFF policies, maybe not all of them, but back then, not at all.
Okay.
I couldn't imagine why people would even think about the EFF. And he was prone to liking them. And we started sitting, and it started out as fighting, right? How could you DA, how could you EFF? But the more we talked about it, the more common grounds we found. And the more we started resonating. So that really was probably a pillar.
That was the moment that changed.
Because you live together, right? You have 2 bedrooms, you have 1 bathroom. You have to share 1 bathroom. And growing up with the mentality that, or with the indoctrination that black people are dirty, they're not clean.
You found they're super clean.
I found that, you know what? His feet are more clean than my feet are.
And he goes to bed with his feet clean.
And his feet are clean when he goes to bed. That's something in the Afrikaans community. I don't assimilate
I
with
that
that.
about my white friends. I won't lie. It's a very funny story. My mother had to make us wash our feet before we go to, because my white friends, like, their feet were like
They'd shower
really
in the
dirty.
morning.
No, because like also my little brother went to a school called Nooit Gedacht. It's in Mildersdrift. So it's a very Afrikaans school. So all the Afrikaans kids go to school barefoot. Like, it's a normal thing. I don't know if they still did it in your era.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So like, that's a normal thing. So having to wash one's feet. So you didn't ever assume that because black people clean houses, black people cook for white people, that, cleanliness is
probably a
proficiency.
thing. I think I came to realize that a bit late.
I'm sorry.
But that's
You're forgiven.
that's-
But I mean, that is stupid. That is like ridiculous. Okay, why would the people that clean everything be dirty?
And you know what? I think it's the image of poverty that we create that connotation to being dirty. My grandmother always said, you could be poor, but you have to be clean.
Yeah.
That is how it works.
Yeah.
And I think once you establish that, like I did, together, I mean, you get to deconstruct a lot of other things as well.
So would you say you guys were like what you call flatmates in the new South Africa?
Absolutely. We were in Sandton, so we went gambling at Monte Casino probably every second weekend. And we partied and all of that.
Plus the bar is open until 5 a.m.
5 a.m. in the morning, especially in River. Especially
That's
in
probably
River.
why people go there, if you're wondering.
And especially walking at night, right, in Sandton and all of that. I had bad expectations of moving to Sandton because...
Really?
Yes, I did.
I've slept in the streets there.
No, I did.
At night, it was safe.
Because you tied Johannesburg to being unsafe.
Oh,
right?
yes.
So when I went there, walking in the night, that's just... You have to do these things to kind of break out of it. So I think that was also a big thing.
And I mean,
And he'd be okay with it, right?
Yeah.
He'd be like, let's say we live 5 kilometers away from where we want to go. He'd be like, let's walk. Let's go there. Let's go chill. You know, we can have some music. We can perhaps smoke a joint on the way. You know, something like that. I'd be like, no, we have to Uber. No, this is Santon. You can't walk here. They shot a guy the other day just down the street.
Yeah,
and
they probably knew him.
And you know, walking, experiencing all of these things, not just walking, but you know what I mean. I don't think I would have experienced that if he didn't help me in deconstructing. That's why I do think that black people also play a large part in helping white people deconstruct.
Now, how come all of this help that we're giving to white people seems to be resulting in a lot of resentment from the white community?
Because I think to a lot of white people who are still conservative, most of them, change is not good, right? As humans, we've evolved to view change as something that is a threat, right? Because we're not in our comfort zone. And that has contributed to that problem.
Okay, so now with that problem, why is it that Afrikaners are seen as more racist and English-speaking people are seen as more liberal? Like, why is it that, you know,
I think
they're more resistant to the change?
I think that is probably just, you know, a way of looking at it, because ever since I joined Twitter 2 weeks ago, right?
Oh,
and
okay.
I've
X, yeah, no.
Yeah, X. I've engaged with racists from South Africa.
Yeah.
They engage in racism differently than Americans do.
Yeah.
And they're English, right? They're whatever they are. They engage in racism differently. The comments I get is like, just wait until the African jungle people, the feral people, start chopping you up after they take the land. Things like that. You clearly hear that that is not the type of white Afrikaans people. That is English people. The language they use, the way they engage in it, the type of stereotypes they still believe. Lions walking in on the N3 in South Africa.
Because obviously Afrikaners have been living with Africans for a long time.
So that's why I think English people might have been more prone to engaging. Afrikaners have been prone to enclaving themselves, keeping within, right?
Yeah.
And that is why they've not assimilated and progressed and evolved
into New South Africa as much as you'd say English people, which is really funny because, I mean, this is like, takes us back to the conversation we were having before we came on air about your school and the name for it, which you still find, or you find offensive in some way?
Yes, folk school.
Yeah.
I do think that by now they'd probably have changed it now, because
is it still Afrikaans?
It's an
medium?
Afrikaans school. No, it was medium. It was Afrikaans English, but by the time I arrived, I think it was 2018, they were just Afrikaans.
Oh, so it gone back.
It gone back
from parallel medium.
Yes.
Okay.
And yeah, that was quite the experience.
So hold on, were there black kids in your school?
Yes, absolutely. But disproportionately
white. And is that because of the Afrikaans language policy?
It is a government school, so
I mean, there were other formerly white government schools there, like English-speaking schools in that area, right?
Yes.
And are they more black?
Yes, absolutely.
So you could say that
it is because of the Afrikaans policy, right?
Yeah.
You have black kids coming into folk school, but it's not as much as, you know, it's not just because it's black kids are living in Rotunda and folk school is in town and it's like 5 or 10 kilometers. Because black kids are traveling from Rotunda past the mall, which is in Shalimar-Reach. There's a school there. That's further than folk school. And that is not an Afrikaans school. So it's not about traveling, but I do think, like you say, to a large extent, it is about the Afrikaans policy that it excludes them. Not just because of language, but culturally, they feel like perhaps why would we want to go to folk school if we're going to be excluded during breaks to our corner, or why we can't wear our hair like we want to, or something like that. But yeah, just because a school is governmental doesn't mean it's not racist.
Yeah.
So
well, I mean, even the government schools, they do get support from the community. Some of them are even charter schools. Some of them are public, private partnerships. But I want to speak to this. You went to folk school. would you say that, you're proud of your Afrikaans heritage?
I've always
Like your personal heritage?
I've
not
always
of the people.
identified with Afrikaans
Yeah.
rather than with calling myself a Boer.
Okay.
Because to some extent, calling myself a Boer, it limits me, because Boere believe you can only be a Boer if you live up to being a Boer. That means being racist, believing in Siener van Rensburg, and believing that in this kind of white superiority. And I think that is the switching point for me, because I didn't go according to that notion.
Yeah, so that is like one disparity, but you're not anti-Afrikaans. You went to an Afrikaans school.
Yeah.
Yet you're seen
I speak
as,
Afrikaans on a daily basis.
Yeah, but you're seen in certain sectors of your own community as anti-Afrikaner. And for me, the expression of anti-Afrikanerdom that I've seen, especially from a lot of white kids that I grew up around and grew up observing, was the Afrikaners that didn't want to be known as Afrikaners, change their name, like a PIETER who would call himself Peter, a Marku who would call himself Mark. Shorten his name. And just a lot of Afrikaans kids that didn't want to go to their nearest law school or word school, they'd rather go to either a parallel medium or an English school. How is it that because of your political views, you are able to become as anemic as an anti-Afrikaner, but at the same time, you are happy with your heritage, you speak and you celebrate your language every day on the daily? So tell us, how do people get to that point of hating you, but, loving the Afrikaner child who might not have political views, but refuses to speak the tongue?
See, that's why I say, I think being a Boer, an Afrikaans person, you're not allowed to be called that unless you live up to that. And that's why I've been vocal about changing what it means to be Afrikaans, evolving what it means, because we as Afrikaans people, we've been not inclusive. We've been all of the things that we equate to being bad. So we have to evolve it. And if we don't evolve it, what we call being Afrikaans, right, and celebrating that, it's going to end terribly. Because I don't celebrate Blood River, even though I'm an Afrikaans and I'm proud of my history. I don't celebrate that part of being Afrikaans. I think we've been consumed by identity politics.
Well, I mean, Blood River is before Afrikaans. Afrikaans
they were
just
still
celebrated
moving
100
out,
years. Yeah.
right?
So even now, appropriating the settler culture to a new group that is, naturalizing itself in a new state or creating a new nationhood is a little bit.
But I'm speaking to the people who still go and celebrate Geloftedag each year on the 16th of December.
Explain, what is Geloftedag?
They celebrate Blood River and the Boers winning, or the people.
We knew
the
it as Dingan's Day back in the day,
Dingan's
and
Day,
it became reconciliation.
Now it's
Day to day.
reconciliation.
So what do white people do on that day?
And
Because
not
we party.
all white people, right? I think most white people celebrate braaiing or doing something in engaging with your community.
But the fundamentalists
But
themselves?
a small group, go to places like these Afrikaner monuments and stuff, and they actually celebrate the slaughter every year. And
Of people,
right? And not necessarily the slaughter of the people, but winning in the battle, right?
Okay, so how did they
winning.
win?
That is what, I'm not a historian, right? But I believe that they won because of technological advancements.
No, but I mean, like, okay, for me, like, okay, if I win, the other team loses. Okay, I'm Tsonga speaking. My family is still around. Sbu is mixture between Swati, Zulu, Pedi. All of his ancestors are still around. None of us have been decimated. None of our languages are dead or anything. So if the war was to overcome us, how can the Boer ever claim any victory if we're still around and we outnumber them still? Like, what have they ever won?
So why I think a lot of these people go and celebrate that day every year is because they read a prophet's books called Siener van Rensburg.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard about him.
Is he the guy who pulled up a diamond in Kroonstad and said,
No, he's the guy that actually prophesized that Afrikaans would once again be a dominant culture in South Africa. He said that the white minority would overtake the black majority.
which year is this?
Sorry, let him finish
Oh, yeah,
his
yeah.
points.
No, it's I think it's 1830s.
Okay,
he
yes.
wrote that.
Just went, yeah.
And every year they practice celebrate Blood River. Those people that celebrate that usually read the book of Siener van Rensburg and these fundamentalist groups like Suidlanders and so forth. It's not the majority of South Africans, but it is the fundamentalists. That's why I say we have to change what it means to being Afrikaans. Afrikaans today shouldn't still mean going on the 16th of December and celebrating the slaughter of thousands of Africans. That's just not normal in 2025. And people should let go of it, even if you have some kind of nationalistic pride towards it. I don't have nationalistic pride towards what my government did during apartheid, my people's government did during apartheid. There's not even the good parts, because good doesn't outweigh bad. Because as long as people are oppressed and not living the life that other people are living, then there's just no fairness or unity.
Okay, no, that I understand. I mean, I want to get back to like the essence of why I was asking the question about what is the Boer victory, right? Because I've also been struggling to define this question because I'm overcome by, a whole lot of content celebrating die Volk, a Volksstaat and all of these things. And after 1934, the abolition of slavery, the next year, the Great Trek starts, the forward trekkers start moving around the country and try to establish a Boer republic, which never actually materializes. And what they try to create as a Boer republic gets subsumed into the Union of South Africa by 1910 after, the Treaty of Vereniging. So in all of their history, whether it be as Dutch settlers who arrived at the Cape first as settlers, they were displaced. Then they moved inland, they were displaced. And then they had, the government from 1924 all the way up until 1994. And then the ANC government then took over from them. So it's a whole lot of defeats, with no real victory, with nothing that the Boer
Secured
people,
that vision.
yeah, that they can say they can show for itself, right? And what we currently stand at this current juncture is the weakest that the Boer nation has ever been. I mean, you're speaking
absolutely agree
to
with
it right now. I mean, the lack of knowledge, the ignorance about
how can you
the
build
history.
a Boer nation and strengthen its ties or its foundations when you have the first group of people leaving South Africa to the United States? How are they going to preserve Afrikanersdom, what they're running away from, in the United States? They can't do it there. That's to bring back to your point.
Yeah.
You can't secure, like, you've never had this Boer nation that they've envisioned, and you're definitely not going to get it in the United States. That's why the solution lies in solving it here.
So yeah, no, you're getting towards the point. So now, how is it that so many other Afrikaners are able to be rallied up by the figment of someone's imagination that is further from materializing right now than it's ever been, even 190 years ago when it was
Because I think
first
the
promulgated?
fear of persecution plays a large role. We have the
Persecution by other whites?
No, the right in the white communities saying that we are being persecuted and we should fear that. That, I think, is a big reason for people leaving, for people wanting to create enclaves. I don't justify that as a reason, but I do think we need to look at why these people want to leave. Perhaps it's because South Africa has failed to give them the dialogue in persuading them, right? Like I said, it's really not going to happen with full-grown adults that believe they're being persecuted, and that believe it's a God-given right to preserve kind of that identity, that nationalist, fundamentalist identity.
So now let's talk about the third spaces for Afrikaans and Afrikanerdom outside of the school. Which places were you able to celebrate your culture, learn your language, express yourself, maybe engage in literature, the arts, etc., outside of the school environment and the home environment?
Okay, so practicing or celebrating my culture, I've based my life on reason and logic. So traditions to me and celebrating them to me seems pointless, something of the past, because once you celebrate something that happened in the past, you don't have the mindset or the energy to focus on the present and changing the future. That's why I do believe that to some extent, culturalism and celebrating this type of thing does hinder human progress, because it limits your reason, it limits your openness to change your mind and things like that.
Yeah, okay, so now there's AfriForum, there's Solidariteit, the DA, PA, the VF Plus, claiming that this Bella Act threatens Afrikaans as a language, Afrikaner people as a group, and the only space where the language is protected. What gives credence to that argument when, outside of Afrikaans and English, in South Africa, there aren't very many schools that are defined by an adherence to a certain language as a medium?
I've always advocated for a fair and equal schooling system, right? I don't advocate for creating Zulu universities or creating Afrikaans universities, because at the end of the day, if we have to create these many universities for so many people in different locations, at the end of the day, it's going to cost much more than just getting some professors and lecturers speaking all the native languages and having that at all universities, not having specific language universities. And that's why I opposed the Bella Bill, because I didn't feel that it hindered or closed the door for Afrikaans speaking people. I just felt that it created a more type of inclusive system, whereas everyone gets the right to access education in their home language, which I'm a supporter of. Don't misunderstand me when I say I don't want Afrikaans universities or other language universities. I don't want people being excluded. That's the goal.
Okay, do you think it's the state's responsibility to oversee education, or do you think
I do.
The community should be?
I think if the state wants to claim leadership of being in charge of this country, they should have the nuts to at least address these things in a proper way, which they failed. I've always said I've been a critic of the apartheid government all my life, but I've always been a critic of the ANC as well, because they've managed poverty. They've not eliminated
Or
poverty.
eradicated.
If China could lift 800 million people out of poverty, South Africa, with our immense wealth and resources, could lift 60 million people out of poverty in no time.
They suffered the loss in the Mao era of 30 million people. Do you think that South Africa needs to go through a similar process of suffering?
So
Humiliation?
I've always believed in bringing people to the exact same level, equitable, right? I don't necessarily believe to that 20th century or 19th century communist philosophy is the way to do it. Even though I do believe in restitution and I believe in the redistribution of wealth, I would probably approach it in a different way. I'd limit people's wealth. I'd say if you have a 3-person family and you live in a 3-bedroom house, that's fine. And that's what you're going to have for the rest of your life. 3 people, house of 3. And we give people that are less fortunate, we give them the means to build up to whatever size family or whatever the 3 family that person have, so that they have the exact same, levels, not necessarily taking away from one and giving it to the another, but bringing it to the exact same level so that both can compete and be fair to the economy.
Would it not be more effective to have a floor rather than a ceiling, so that maybe those that rise up in riches and wealth can also come back and help the rest of the community
Absolutely.
elevate to a certain...
Yes, I think your wealth should be cut off at a certain point. Well, let's be honest. You don't need billions of rands. You're never going to spend billions of rand. So that's fine. It has been proven psychologically that aspects within the capitalist system drives the human nature to do more. I don't endorse capitalism, but you have to have that kind of driving power for people to still participate after wealth has been redistributed or restituted or whatever. Otherwise, you'll have an even more self-loathing nation or people like the Afrikaners than you do now. Once they've lost even more than they think they've lost now.
So he's got an interesting work of activism that I'd like for him to tell us more about. I think you are walking to... actually, I don't want to paraphrase you wrong. I'd like for you to explain it to us.
So we have a diverse team of 4 South Africans, 2 black, 2 white, 2 men, 2 women. And with the back of Cradle of Humankind and Marupeng, we are starting an activist protest of 30,000 kilometers.
Okay.
Starting...
I thought you were saying 30,000 people. Yeah.
30,000 kilometers.
30,000. No, 30,000. That's a long
kilometers.
distance. Yeah.
From here to Cape Town, that's already 1,000 kilometers.
That's like to Cairo and back 3 times.
We're walking to
From here to Cape
Thailand.
Town is 1,400.
You're walking to Thailand.
So we're
Well,
walking
it is
through
physically
Africa.
possible.
We're going, once we get to Egypt, we take a ferry to Turkey, and then we walk again from Turkey all the way to Thailand. And what the goal about this
You're not going to walk through Gaza.
No, we're passing Gaza.
You don't want to go from the old apartheid to the new one.
So we're doing it because of unity,
Yeah.
progress, and purpose.
Okay.
And that is why Cradle has decided to back us, because...
Cradle. Who is Cradle?
So Cradle of Humankind
Cradle
is
of
on board.
Humankind
Is
is on board. Absolutely. And that's why we're launching from Cradle. We're retelling the story of human migration, the story of the human evolution, and we're telling it differently this time. We're walking it not to reach different destinations, but to reach the same destination as one language and one people. And that is why we want to bring this message. And we think it's going to get international recognition.
And according to you, what is your story of human evolution?
So I believe in the origins of humanity in Africa. I do believe that humanity originated in Africa, and that is the most powerful story ever told. Because it just shows people that you hate where you come from and you don't really hate the external world. That's why when we're racist, you hate something within yourself. You don't really hate the person outside. And walking this walk would really signal that to the people. We're not going to show people what Kilimanjaro and things like that look like. We're walking through the poorest of poor communities in Africa, showing people what they eat, what they drink, how they dress, and how they express their humanity in different ways.
Do you know Jabba?
Sorry?
Jabba.
Jabba?
Jabba.
Double HP.
Double HP.
Hip hop and so.
He did a Dijara walk. He tried to walk to Kilimanjaro from South Africa, Nairobi, but he walked through.
He did walk.
Yeah, he did. He did a lot of the walk. He's a late rapper and South African icon as well. You know, so you're following in his footsteps. Have you engaged with other people who've taken on similar journeys?
No, we have. No, we've engaged with people that have done kind of these protests. We talked to a person that walks from Johannesburg to Cape Town for unity.
Life.
But that is not walking 30,000 kilometers. So I don't think anything really could mentally prepare us for this. It's going to be hard. We're going to sleep in tents. We're going to depend on the communities. It's not going to be fun. It's going to be a walking museum for life. So that's why we need to do it. We need to break the stereotype of Africa. Stay away from Africa.
How long do you think it's going to take you?
2 years.
It's going to take you 2 years.
1 to 2 years.
Starting from?
The 1st of July.
Starting from the 1st of July this year.
Yes.
Okay, with 3 of your friends.
Yes.
All right. And
3 activists.
3 activists. And who's on board to say that they are, assisting you whichever way?
So we reached out via email to Cradle of Humankind and to the Department of Social Development and Tourism and so forth. Not expecting much. We expected to start the 1st of July walking with really nothing. And I got an email about a week ago from Cradle saying that they're celebrating their 20th birthday. And along with the G20, they want to tell this story. So that is why they want to endorse this, because they want to show that for people that might be different culturally and racially and so forth, walking together for unity, purpose, and dignity, that is a powerful message for South Africa to tell the G20. So I think that is why they've probably endorsed it.
Age groups of the other 3 activists?
Age groups, we're all below 30.
So you're all in your 20s?
Yes.
That's incredible. So you're telling your own story?
Yes.
The current generation.
Absolutely.
What would you like the world to know about this walk?
I want the world to know that if we don't do things like this, humanity will never progress. We're not walking because we want to go on a trip or on a vacation. Otherwise, we would have stayed in hotels and things like that. We're walking to show the story of humanity, how it expresses itself in different shades, and why we are really one. Because I know a lot of people have criticized me for believing that. I've said it personally, and I'd say it again, we're all African, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know who agrees with me, because humanity originates from Africa. That doesn't mean that I take it and run with it, right? Like some people do, but it gives me the drive to try and unite us as one and do this walk.
It's you're risking your lives also. You are aware of that, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's going to be hard. So that is why it's important that all we're asking is that people support us. Watch the videos, share it to as many people as you can, and we should be okay. We'll tell the story the next day again. So,
what do you think, NOTA?
No, I'd like to assist.
Same here,
do you
man.
guys have like publicists?
This is brilliant.
We've
anything?
I've now reached out to IOL. They did an article on me yesterday.
Oh yes, I did notice that.
And they want to do an interview now. So I've never done something like this, but I knew that it wouldn't happen if I didn't initiate it.
Mm-hmm.
So that is why I initiated it. I'm still not 100% sure that we'll come back alive. But
no, of course you will.
You will.
You will. Of course.
That is what we're going to do. On
You
the
guys
1st of
are South
July.
Africans, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
You know what I mean?
As a South African, you can survive anywhere. That's the one good thing about being a South African.
A lot of people were worried about the time constraints when we reached out to a lot of people. Like, we reached out to Cape Union, said we're doing this.
Cape Union March.
Yes.
And
And
but your political views might be challenging.
that is what we. I only came out to find that. I found that out later. I didn't know.
Yes, you didn't know.
So we did withdraw from that. But we did reach out to them asking for, could you help us with tents and some gear and all of that? And of course, none of these people replied, or these companies, because I'm not mad at them. At the end of the day, people sponsor movements, not ideas.
So we'd like to come on board with sharing some of the information in terms of publicity here on the podcast, on our radio show, on Radio 2000, on our morning radio show.
Oh, lovely. That's a nice initiative.
Obviously, when you're walking, while you're still around, whichever way we'll be able to reach you, as Mzake's Kitchen would love to feed you guys.
Yeah.
That would be dope. So you
Or
guys
get them sponsor them. Like, we need a brand that can get them a satellite phone, so that we can always be in contact with them the whole way.
so we
Satellite
can
phones
be in
are
touch
very,
with you
you know what I
guys.
mean?
I guess even telecommunications companies, right? So you
yeah.
guys can be in touch.
We did reach out to Vodacom.
Yeah.
We have not yet heard back. We did reach out to Clicks. They've actually responded and said they'd have a team member contact us if they get it through to corporate.
We'll obviously throw in some more fires there, so you can have some energy there.
More
Did you also
fires.
hear about some incredible BMX bikers from Limpopo?
I did, and they have been a big inspiration.
They had to ride all the way to Cape Town. Tell us more about
So
that.
we saw this story trending at around day 10. And I actually made a video about this, criticizing that how could big organizations and movements not have been involved since the beginning of such a great initiative? So we took inspiration from that. We got together on a Zoom meeting and we said, how do we get South Africa to look at us at one specific location and go, what they're doing might just change something. And we thought, this is what it's going to be.
It's history, bro. This is beautiful. Brave young guys. We're really proud of you guys. It's beautiful, man. Just, see the country evolve and having all these different voices, different ideologies on the internet. Akusafani nakuqala nakudala, And I don't know, how do you handle criticism? And I'm sure you've also gotten some death threats.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, most of it I ignore if it's bordering on, the uneducated or illiterate. I do engage with some of it when there's valid points of discussion or dialogue.
Yeah.
But most of it I ignore. The death threats and so forth, I catalog. ChatGPT said I should do that. So I decided to catalog death threats. But that's about it. My girlfriend, I have to say, is afraid of walking in public. She's like,
Huh?
She is.
Your girlfriend
With
is
me.
almost 6 foot tall.
No.
Really? She looks really tall.
No, she is quite tall. But
No, maybe not exactly, but to me, she looks like really tall. Sorry, I saw the video on your TikTok where you were waiting for her overactive bladder. Don't worry, we will go through it. Yeah, it's not just you. There's nothing wrong with her.
no, she's more scared of fundamentalist white racists attacking me in the street, like they've said.
She's afraid they will
attacking
attack you.
me with me in public. Of
So
course.
now, how has that affected, your relationship? Because I just recently got divorced, and also my activism had a lot to do with conflict at home. How
I
do you?
resonate.
Yeah. Hey man, look, I'm
Dating-
35. You're 21. You're a young guy. I feel so much empathy because I don't want you to go through certain painful things that I've gone through myself. But I see how convicted you are with your passions. So managing that. Let me rather not ask you to give an opinion on that because this is going on public record, and also, when it's close to home, you might want to just steer clear from such things. But things like romance, it's a part of being young. How do you deny yourself being someone's boyfriend, being their date and doing this to literally pick a struggle? Like, how do you pick a struggle?
It has been.
And why
difficult.
this struggle?
I actually only started getting a lot of attention after I started dating her. My TikTok was there, and
That's the jealousy
it
of it.
resonated, but then it suddenly blew up, and she started getting messages and threats and things like that.
You should have got an ugly girlfriend.
She actually, locked all of her social profiles, and I've been scared to post things about her because they've actually created inappropriate sexual things about me and my girlfriend on the internet.
Or like
Just be-
AI and
just because they disagree with what I have to say. So she's afraid, and to me it's sad because I can't change it, and I can't expect her to support me when it's going to be threatening to her.
But
Parents?
My parents are mortified about my safety because I think to a large extent they know that fundamentalists don't play.
that's why I'm worried about, like, how your girlfriend is taking this, because the danger is not black people. Fortunately, for a lot of white people, black people don't live near white people, so they can't really actually threaten them, even if they can say some mean things online. It's not really a valid threat. The danger that she is now feeling, because the people that are targeting you are from your own community. They're actually other whites. I can say stuff about white people, but I live in Sandton and there are no fundamentalists here. So I don't have any fear. You are in
a conservative town. It's difficult to go to the mall with my girlfriend and go and do some shopping because you get those looks, right? We have a population of 60,000 people.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty bad.
So
Yeah.
it's done the rounds, especially when we did that sexual abuse case. 5 business owners in the surrounding community threatened to sue me for defamation. They sent me cease and desist letters just to try and protect that restaurant owner from whatever the the course of the law might have been. And he fled.
And this was back in 2022.
No, this was now. This was
Oh,
this year, a
recently?
few months ago.
Oh, a few months ago.
Yeah.
Sorry, finish up.
No, it's okay.
If you've been through similar stuff,
Yeah.
you've been threatened, cases have been opened against you.
Yeah.
You've had even cops stop you on the road. You get.
I've been
death
beaten
threats.
up by cops. I've
You've
been put in
you've
prison.
through the
I have
most.
been, yeah,
If
I've had
you
a
were to-
struggle.
If you were to give him an advice with the road that he has taken of being this activist that he is in 2025, which you are as well,
Yeah.
what advice would you give him?
You know, the thing is that I can only give you bad advice because, like, no, seriously, I wouldn't want you to do this. Like, just to be honest, having gone through what I've gone through, I would not want it for anyone else, you know?
Why? Do you regret?
No, not that I've got regrets. It's just that it's very difficult, you know? It is very lonely to have solidarity, but no one can really support you. It's like, yeah, we see what you're doing. You're doing great. You know
But
what I
they
mean?
don't understand the difficult road that it takes.
No, like they wouldn't piss on a fire to put you out. Like they'll celebrate you when you're being celebrated. But if you're really struggling, you're really going through it, when you're at your lowest, no one is going to come and help you. They're going to say you did it to yourself. You went out there and thought you were Icarus. And now that's what you get for flying too close to the sun. So for me, I'd say stay strong. You know, you're a young person. Help people. It helps you so that you can recenter your original mission. You know, you can also not just recenter your original mission. You can always encourage yourself and motivate yourself by being helpful and seeing that you are helping people, you are helping them do good. Because when everything else, you know, crumbles around you, that's the one thing that can at least keep you sane. And keep being brave and reassure your parents. You know, it's very difficult for them to divorce themselves from your first breath, your first cries, your first screams. You know, when you couldn't utter any words, you are still their little baby and they want to protect you. But you've done the bravest thing, you know, which is stand for the truth. And that should always be your shield. The fact that, you know, your passions, your convictions, and your virtues align with the virtues of other humanists and you're for the good of humanity as a whole, that should endear you with people. And they will come and, you know, protect you from the threats that are less obvious, I think. Yeah.
Coming from an older guy, 45-year-old guy, I mean, I'm old enough to be your father. These are three different generations. Mid-40s is getting into his mid-30s.
I'm mid-30s, I'm 35.
And you're
Almost there.
You're 21.
Yeah.
I'd like to say I'm very proud of both of you guys. Right, I grew up at a different time. As much as, you know, I'm 20 years older than you,
Yeah.
a decade older than you. Just to see you guys do what you do, I can't help but just be inspired, be proud of you. I also know that it's not an easy road to take. I just want to say, may God be with the both of you guys. May God bless you guys.
No, thank
you guys have just taken up another struggle that even our predecessors and our people who've struggled before many years ago, it was at a different time. You guys are doing it now, you know, in these times of the internet. And we see you. We see the work you're doing. Another thing that I was excited about when you guys met outside, tried to introduce you to NOTA, you already were exposed to his work. You know about his work.
Yeah.
And that is beautiful. It shows you the power of the internet, and you both of you guys understand that, and you use it wisely to try and stand for truth. Although it's not easy, it is risky. You go through a lot every day. As he was just saying, you could have just chosen to be a young person who's enjoying dating your girlfriend, going to the movies, doing all the fun
I
things.
still advise that, you know, I still say, you know, I'm just saying, I'm just giving you advice because you've already chosen this and I don't want you to, you know, be disillusioned by your journey. But, you know, I still say, you know, just chill with your girlfriend, like, bro, like.
all the fun things that 21-year-olds do.
Do, like,
But
you know.
there's now a 11-year-old. There is now a 16-year-old that's watching you. What do you, as much as I've asked him to give you advice, what advice do you give them? Black or white or whatever race?
NOTA said how dangerous it is, right? But I don't think that should discourage us. I think don't wait as long as I waited. Start even younger. Because the more people the more people that does this type of work, the harder it is to plan a coordinated attack. So educate the youth and have them speak for the older populations, because I think truth will come from the younger generations, especially in this generation. We will transform it.
Do you believe there is a possibility for a true rainbow nation, like we've been, say, lied to over the past 3 decades?
I think at this point, we are divided and conquered by ideologies that separate us. And until we come to the conclusion that, you know what, we are brothers and we are sisters and we are actually one, there's no progress. So that is where it starts, is acknowledging that we are one race and we fight for the causes of one race and not a specific race or culture. So that's why I'm a humanist. I believe in the progress of humanity as a whole.
For people out there who might be wanting to support your initiatives, and especially this walk that you're doing for 30,000 kilometers, how do they get in touch with you?
They can get in touch via Instagram, X, TikTok, as well as all of the initiative links in our bios. We still need to say who the last person is joining the Humanist Walk. So we'll probably announce that in the next week or so. We have a meeting next week with KRIEL. So, absolutely.
Yeah, you have to drive all the way there again.
Yes.
Yeah, you should live around here, bro. It's like the cradle is right behind us.
I
I mean, like, you know,
Literally 20 minutes away.
yeah, like, yeah, you should, you know, let me know. You know, I've got like an extra bedroom also at home if you need a place to stay. You know, stay for a night. Before we close and we wrap up this conversation, you spoke about teaching the kids, and teach is part of teacher. And a lot of what I've learned in my life has come from teachers. I remember there was a teacher in my school, which used to be DF Malan. It ended up becoming Rauko, right, after the transition. Yeah. Mrs. Velddagen. She was an English teacher, an English woman married to an Afrikaner, Mrs. Velddagen. And what Mrs. Velddagen did is that she changed our school song, not the words, but the melody, because she says, you guys are sleeping well, you know, and that taught me a lot about arrangement of music. It had like a very profound effect on my career. You know, as someone who makes music, the arrangement of music is what I actually specialized in as a composer, as I ended up becoming an arranger because of what Mrs. Velddagen did, and also how she encouraged my creative writing, which also helped me become a songwriter. Yourself, you've been through primary school, high school, you ended up not going to university.
Not yet.
Yes, there must have been some teacher there that inspired you or gave you some of your convictions. If you want to speak about that, maybe give them a shout out.
Absolutely. I had a teacher in high school. Her name was Mrs. Ferguson. She was a history teacher. And
did she support Manchester United?
no, I don't,
Okay,
I
good.
don't think so.
Okay,
no.
good. Yeah.
She taught us about Mandela, right? Some people calling him a terrorist, some people calling him a freedom fighter. I grew up with the notion believing Nelson Mandela was a terrorist.
I prefer that one though.
He grew up as, that's what I
Terrorists
grew
are
up as,
pretty
right?
cool right now.
And I got to her class and she told me that Nelson Mandela was not a terrorist. Everything we do in life, it comes down to your subjective perception of something. We define things based on how we want to define it. The right parties, like the Republicans in the US, claim that when they engage in war, it's because of terrorists or protecting national identity. When Democrats engage in war, they say it's because of protecting democracy. She told me that Mandela was not a terrorist, he was a freedom fighter. And that is where my conviction started. Believing, I was always a pacifist. and that changed it.
Like Gandhi.
Like,
yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of Gandhi,
Okay.
but
No, well, let's not
why
look into
not?
his history.
I do think that he was very racist towards black people.
Yeah, but I mean, you know what? He comes from that era. I judge him the same way I would judge maybe people your parents' generation, even my parents. Like my parents have got some backward thoughts. You know, they think if a white person is complaining about me, they'll think, hey, why are you making white people angry? You know what I mean? Sort of thing. So like, let's forgive the previous generation because it does help make the younger ones who are arguing this come to the table with a little bit more humility because they've been exposed to a lot more, and also to not create the apprehension in the older people that, you know, don't want to engage with younger people who don't know where they come from or what they come from. So I forgive him for that. But you say you're not a pacifist. Then what would you define the state of activism you were in before you were awakened by your teacher?
I think I was aware that there's very big disparities in life amongst equality and things like that. But I was never outspoken, right? And I think her reassuring or letting me know that Mandela was doing this because he was fighting for the greater good of something, right? Even though it might have not been economic liberation as the people wanted. It might have just been political freedom. He fought for it, and it was a success.
Mm-hmm. So to close this off, don't you think the fact that you are here, I'm here, maybe representing a generation older than you, there's generations younger than you that are here, and we're awakening, we're contributing to the fight, maybe for that economic liberation, that it was worth it to fight for our political liberation so that you could make the ground, make the ground fertile for this true liberation of our people that's now emerging.
I think that is what the youth or our generation will do. Black and white alike, we will stand together in creating a more equal and equitable society, because it's great when political parties talk about fairness and equality, but it's sad when they don't resonate with the majority of black people who are still disenfranchised and live in poverty. Mm-hmm. So speaking about something is one thing, but acting upon it is something else, and that is where we should start. Is finding that middle ground, not just speaking, not just doing, but finding the center to it and doing good.
PIETER, KRIEL, brave young man. Yo. You're amazing, bro. You are so amazing. Last words?
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure engaging with NOTA and yourself. Absolutely. You've inspired me in many ways as well. When I saw some of your videos a few months ago, even though I might not always agree with what you say, it did help me in deciding whether or not I'd say everything I want to say or limit some of the things I say. And you were like, PIETER, just say whatever you want to say.
Oh no. My mother right now is watching. She's praying for you. She's like, oh, please don't let Nhlamulo influence this child with his naughtiness. I know my child is brilliant, but he can be naughty sometimes. Please, PIETER, don't be naughty like Nhlamulo. So if anything you take from me, only the good parts. Thank you for coming onto this platform. It's been a pleasure to have you, and it's such an inspiration to learn from, the younger generation. You guys are the reason we do what we do. So the fact that you are awake is awareness.
I'd like to pray for the both of you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna pray for the both of you, man. Well, I'm gonna take off my hat. Sorry.
I'm expose my afro.
Jehova nkulunkulu baba, sicela ukubonga umusa wakho, sicela ukubonga impilo, sicela ukubonga nkulunkulu baba ukusinikeza imilomo neingqondo zokuthi sicabangele sikhulumele nkulunkulu baba. Izitha ezizama ukuattack izingane zakho njengoba uyibona la zenza umsebenzi omuhle ukukhuluma iqiniso nkulunkulu baba. Abantu abaningi abalithanda iqiniso. Ngicela ubavikele, ngicela uhambe nabo kuba bonke lobunzima bakubona khona manje. Njengoba babancane nkulunkulu baba bakhuthaza nabanye abaningi abancane abababhekile. All the work they're going to do, Lord, may you be with them. All the initiatives they're still going to do, they've got a long life ahead of them. May you bless them. May you grant them the wisdom they need to become even greater in life, inspire others and millions of other young people to build a better South Africa and a greater world, God. Be with them all the time, wherever they walk, whatever work they do. May you bless them with your wisdom. May you protect them with the blood of Christ. Everybody joins me in saying, Amen.
Thank you.
Love you guys.
Thank
I'm
you.
very proud of y'all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me, for giving me the experience.
Proud of you.
Hola. Thank you.
It's not
Afrikaans
a
home.
Monday unless it's Martini. It
It's
is not
not
a Monday,
Unless it's...
a NOTA Monday.
So this is from Washington, D.C.,
Yeah.
where the foodseekers...
I was with you when I bought this, remember?
Yeah, the
I was in
foodseekers
DC.
landed in D.C. as we are recording this episode.
Listen to
So this is just a reminder to all the foodseekers. Where you from? Because Africa is home.
Africa is home. We love you guys. See you in the next video. God bless.